Good evening, Demon fans, and welcome back to the Demonland podcast. My name is Andy, and well, some might call it an honourable loss. Others might more accurately call it an opportunity lost. We had our chance to snatch an unlikely victory against the odds in one of the game's biggest fortresses, but our own inaccuracy and inefficiency was once again our biggest enemy, and we were slayed at the final stretch. Where to from here? Is the season over? We'll talk about all that and more on tonight's show. And to do just that, I'm joined once again by my co-host Grapeviney. And Grapeviney, is it time to look towards season 2020 and beyond? Can we salvage anything from the wreckage of season 2019?
Potentially, Andy. Good evening. Because I'm just waiting to hear back from Victoria Police, actually. I reported a robbery on Friday night at about 10:30. So I just waiting to see what the cops have found out about what the umpires got up to the other night.
Can it really be called a robbery when you leave your door totally unlocked? You leave the keys out there, the keys on top of your car. Look, it was
a big sign out the front saying
"Rob me."
Goods inside.
It's, I did think we were robbed by the look. You have a look at the free kick stats, and it's even Stevens, just about. But umpire. And I don't like to blame the umpires. I do like to blame the umpires, but it wasn't. Everything.
There's no doubt they had an impact on the outcome.
Yep.
There were, those 3 or 4 decisions and non-decisions which were really crucial. But as you say, we shouldn't have been in that position for it to impact the game. We should have the gate should have been shut well before three-quarter time, probably. So as the commentators kept promising during the night, it's going to come back and bite Melbourne on the bum, and it did. And that karma can come back in many ways, and it just happened to come back through the umpires the other night.
It certainly did, and we will talk a little bit more about that in a particular incidents. I'll just do some housekeeping here. If you'd like to join our program tonight to discuss anything, any topics we talk about, just want to get on and vent, anything you like, you can give us a call on 039016 3666. That's 039016 3666, or Skype us at Demonland31. We love to hear from other Demonlanders, other Demon fans of the podcast. If you do want to vent and you don't have anyone in your life you can vent to us. We love hearing it. If you're listening to this show later on via SoundCloud on Demonland.com or via iTunes or an Android podcasting app, be sure to subscribe. You'll receive updates when a new show drops. Don't forget to leave us favourable reviews, and that certainly does help more people find us. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Demonland31, Twitter @Demonland, Instagram @Demonland31. Search for us on YouTube, and you can listen to some of the interviews we've conducted with current and past players and coaches. Our last week's interview with Jaden Hunt's up there, so check that out. If you just love talking about the D's 24/7, join up to Demonland.com and chat with us and other Demon fans from all around the world.
Speaking of Jaden Hunt, DV8 has bumped a training thread from January, 18th of January, and where he actually asked the question, could Hunt play out of a forward pocket? So DV8 was right on the money a few months ago, because that move's working, isn't it?
And absolutely. We'll talk about that in one sec. But what's interesting is the interview we did with Jaden last week. He did mention that he wasn't training with the forwards throughout pre-season. He was training with the backs. And then I think just prior to did he play in the first JLT up forward, or was it the second? I can't remember, but he was given some time.
I think he started. I think his first game might have been down back.
Yeah. How amazing was he on Friday night? One of our better players, and he's really improving week to week.
Probably in the best 3 because he was consistent throughout the night. From very early on, and he's proving to be a really good link-up player too across half forward.
there was a fantastic piece of play. We've got it as the video of the week on the homepage of demonland.com. It is that link-up play through that we sort of just controlled the ball through the middle, linking handballs, and he was a part of that. I think he did a 1-2 and ran down the ground to get it back and kicked a beautiful goal. Nearly got tripped over by Petrarca on the way through.
Yes.
But he's been amazing, and we're talking before the show about some of his work up the ground and in the forward line. And at the moment, we'd love to have two players like him. As I said, one up the ground and one in deep in the forward line, because he's hitting the scoreboard as well. I think now he's our leading goal kicker, having kicked 2 goals on the weekend, and he was just behind Melksham prior to this game. Yep.
You wouldn't have, you wouldn't have bet on that at the start of the year, would you?
Well, DV8, Demonland Poster, obviously.
Unless you were DV8, yes, of course. But you talk about the link-up play, and there were a number of, for quite a majority of Friday night's game, it was almost the Melbourne of 2018. The quick movement of the ball, the chains of hand passes and good running, and it seemed to be back, didn't it?
It did seem to be back. Still falling. The polish was there. There was a lot more polish than we've seen all year. There were some putrid stuff, as some people on Demonland have said, but there was. It was. For me,
it was a mixture of good and bad, wasn't
it? But there was more good. There was more of that feeling of season 2018. But once again, we fell over by not being able to score goals, whether it was from inaccuracy or whether it was kicked into the forward line and just rushed right back out. Because we had 20 more inside 50s. I think it was about 20 more. What was the inside 50s? 62 to 47, so just under 20 more. It's a lot to not then, again, to not kick a winning score.
Some of those final kicks into the 50 were just atrocious, and others where we were able to have a shot on goal, and T-Mac, Petrarca, Garlett weren't able to take what were some relatively easy opportunities. So it cost us in the end.
T-Mac's first quarter was sensational. He was getting the ball everywhere, obviously not then kicking goals, but he was taking marks. He looked to be everywhere, but he sort of faded out a bit out of the game later on. We sort of are lacking a goal scorer. A T-Mac from last year, dare I say, Jesse Hogan. Nothing we can do about that one, obviously, but... we just are lacking. Do you think did they make a mistake not playing Bruce in the game? There's sort of mixed feelings on that one.
No,
we played
I don't
Tim
think
Smith
so, because no, I don't think so. I mean, Max was just
dominant.
Was close to being BAG. I know he didn't get the full coaches' votes, but those coaches' votes would have been different had we won, and Max probably would have been best on ground, but. I thought the forward line functioned pretty well, all things considered, and obviously until Tim Smith went off. So would sort of Bruce have made much of a difference? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's definitely a belief on Demonland that he is some kind of saviour or the Messiah, and that if he was selected in the team that all of our troubles would magically disappear, but I
don't think so. But in every game he's kicked 2 goals, and the Rezzies the last 2 weeks, which Rezzies obviously a different standard to the seniors, but he's kicked 2 in them. So he is hitting the scoreboard as well as being able to help Max out. Max didn't need the help this week. There was the worry that maybe having 2 ruckmen go at him for the whole game might be problematic. It wasn't. He absolutely destroyed both of them. Didn't love, as most of the commentators didn't love, the treatment that he got after that goal, after that mark from Ryan, I think Liam Ryan. What did you think of that? Obviously, it's not a great look, but
I know. Well, someone started a thread saying that people should have, his teammates should have stuck up for him, but Oscar and someone else did drag, did drag them off, but
They did a little
that was
push.
Sorry?
Little push and shove, but not much
No, they
aggression.
didn't do much, but look, it was a crucial stage of the game, and you want the players to be focused on the ball at that
Yeah, you
stage,
don't want to give away a
rather than,
double goal.
look, giving away a 50 wouldn't have done anything
No,
then.
but a double goal, there's always that.
Don't lose your cool
Yeah.
at the time of the game when you require the most composure. We have enough trouble with composure as it is, so stay focused. I didn't. I didn't think there was too much in that.
Well, there was a call early in the year when Port Adelaide sort of roughed Max up a bit that no one was coming to his aid, and I think it was sort of that same thing that people were saying this week. Should they? But as you said, you've got to have a cool head in that time.
You go jumper punching now, and your hand accidentally slips, and you get someone in the face, and then you get a week.
Well,
and then
especially if
you go in a meltdown about being undisciplined. So you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't on the board.
And we don't have any current Brownlow medalists playing, so they would get a week. So.
Yes,
but
that's
look,
the way it works.
If the score line was a bit different, they 13-7, and if we were 9-15, if we had kicked 15-9, we'd be talking a different talk this week. But what do we? Let's talk about the yips in front of goal. Petrarca, what's wrong? Is it in the head? I mean, it's not skill. Surely it's not skill. It looks like skill because he's dropping it high.
His technique and that the ball drop is very high.
But that wasn't like that. What's happened that he's doing that again?
No, look,
where does it come from?
He's definitely got the yips now, and it's become such a torturous process for him that each kick is progressively significantly worse than the last. I mean, he's finding incredible ways to spray it from pretty close in. So he's got a thing in his head now. And you'd think that, he has kicked the odd goal in between, mainly
but they're
mainly
all
on the run.
They're all either on the run or from very long out where he has a bigger arc on the foot and he kicks it differently.
You'd think that getting the odd goal or two would then look after the mental demons of the next set shot, but it hasn't transpired that way. So I don't know. Look, it's happened before. Remember, Nick Rewalt had a year or perhaps even longer where he couldn't kick straight, and is it Jack Billings at St Kilda?
Yeah, had a shocker year last year,
yeah. And is now sort of apparently putting them through, so it happens. What do you do to get out of it? I'm not too sure.
Is it people are saying, it's all in the head. Do you get someone in to sort of sort that out? Whether, I don't know,
well,
whether you get a psychologist.
Yeah, look, I'm sure they've done stuff already like that.
Or does that make it worse? I don't know.
Well, yeah, who knows?
I just saw somewhere in the post-match thread that someone said that there was 8 frees to 1, if we're going to talk about the umpiring, 8 frees to 1 to the Eagles in the last quarter. So perhaps that did have an impact.
Look, I actually thought we had the run of the umpires I didn't notice them. I did notice them, actually, and I thought they were probably favouring us. It turned late in the third quarter when, was it Kennedy going for that unrealistic mark and kicked Oscar in the back?
Yeah, he just kicked him in the back or kneed him in the back. Didn't even really have his arms up. So it was one of those times when if you're having a genuine crack at a mark, they sort of let those things go. But, he didn't even get near it. And I think if you don't get near it, that's got to be a free. And I bet you if one of our players had done that and the crowd had, gone up and gone mental as they do there, it might have been a free kick against us. Now, what did you think of the Tim Smith incident where he assumed that there was a free kick? He didn't hear a whistle, but I guess he looked at the contest and sort of gave the free kick in his head, and he just stopped. Got tackled by who tackled him? Was it? Jeddah tackles him, dangerous tackle. Ended up getting suspended for a week for that tackle, but he got a free kick for that. So it's one of those things
which turned into a goal.
Turned into a goal.
It was a 12-point play. Look, umpires make mistakes, and that was it was a howler. But unfortunately, it happens. There are lessons there for everyone. Players should keep playing. Players should do what they're meant to do, and that's play, and let the umpires do the umpiring. So play until you hear the whistle, which is a common refrain in soccer as well. But I did read, and I think in the post-match thread, that someone had gone back and looked at it, and the umpire, while he may have called play on, he wasn't gesturing with his arms. And so I think Tim Smith was looking at the umpire and didn't get that visual cue. So perhaps the umpire is also partly at fault for not being more demonstrative in calling play on. But
are you saying that he was talking like a little girl? You don't want to say that. You might get a week off for that.
Or that he was an effing cheat.
Yes.
Which plenty of people have alleged. I know there's a 7-page thread now about the umpires. But, look, that was a howler. There was the obvious throw at the top of the goal square, which then led to the Sheed goal. But, unfortunately, the game is full of that.
Yeah.
Of those kinds of mistakes, and sometimes they fall your way and sometimes they don't. And we were just really unlucky the other night that, there were close to a handful of them that really had a bearing on goals.
There's also the crowd factor in that not hearing the umpire, because it's very noisy there. I mentioned this last year when I went over to Perth. It's one of the loudest grounds I've ever been to. I've been to 80,000, 90, 100,000 at the G, and the 60,000 there was 55 the other night, is the loudest I've ever heard any ground ever. So that could have played a factor in
But look, you can talk about the umpires all you want. I look back to, and you don't want to single out individual players, but, you look back to this very first bounce of the final quarter, and we should have had an absolute roll goal clearance there, straight down Oliver's throat, and he fluffed it. So instead of potentially putting a bit of scoreboard pressure on really early in the final quarter, another Oliver mistake a few seconds later led to the West Coast goal. So we've only got ourselves to blame. You can talk about the umpiring all night, but that's out of our control.
Well, let's talk about Oliver for a second. Some people on Demonland suggesting perhaps the surgeries he's had to his shoulders hasn't helped him in terms of his accuracy and being able to hit. He's obviously being able to get the ball. We've seen that in his possession counts, but he's not really hitting the targets like he was. Perhaps he's trying to hurry too much at times, and it's causing him to miss targets. He's not a dead-eyed dick as he was.
That second error in that passage of play where he tried to handball to Jones, I mean, there was like a rocket, which no one would have had the reflexes to take. So, look, his disposal, we've mentioned already this on the podcast this year, isn't up to the standard that it was last year. But, he's not the... He's not a high on the list of worries, is he, Clayton Oliver?
No, definitely not. He's not one in the crosshairs to be dropped by any means.
But look, his kicking inside 50 is as bad as anyone else's, though.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. The stats were there to prove it.
You can forgive handballs that go astray occasionally, but you can't keep turning the ball over like he is doing at the moment, kicking inside 50.
Before we talk about players maybe that didn't sort of impress, let's talk some positives. The players that did impress. I thought Harms again had a great game, racked up a lot of possessions.
He's back to last year's output.
Had a slow start to the year, but is definitely sort of back up there. So that's good to see. Gorney obviously worked hard all night. We said Hunt was fantastic. I was extremely impressed with Hoare once again. I think we've really found someone there. At times his kicking's not great, but I think his marking. He's sort of marking everything. He's not afraid to sort of go for a contested mark in defence when he reckons he can mark it rather than punch it. So I'm loving that aspect. So we've really found one there. Sort of plucked him out of nowhere because,
Yeah, no, I agree. Really seems to be sort of getting better each week. So plenty of promise.
I was impressed with sort of most of our key backs. I thought Omac probably had his best game for the year. I know he's got a lot of detractors in Demonland and on the web in general, but I was happy with him and happy with Frosty as well. I thought Frosty, that rundown was fantastic. We ran down Petrocelli. Is that how you say it? Petrocelli.
Yep.
But I guess that sums Frost up. He did this amazing rundown and tackle, and then kicked the ball out on the full. So
I mean, it was a 4 metre kick that went off the side of his boot, almost backwards. How he managed to do that is beyond me. But as you say, that's that passage of play is Frost in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah, he had a bit of a fumble on the goal line as well that cost us. But he's playing.
Probably done by then.
Yeah, he's playing well. Salem again, cleanest disposal in the team, and it's just.
I actually thought Salem had a horror night.
Oh, you did? I thought he was all right. Maybe I saw something different.
No, I thought you're right. He's been sensational all year, but I thought he was just had a night he'd rather forget. A number of turnovers and missed disposals.
Yep, fair enough. What did you think of the debutant, Oscar Baker?
Thumbs up from me. His first 2 disposals were things of beauty.
He's got a beautiful kick. He does.
Provided a fair bit of run in the night. Found himself in a number of chains, which was really good to see. Got caught a couple of times, which happens to debutants before they pick up the speed of the game. But,
there was definitely a lack of awareness at times, but that'll come. That's via. Someone mentioned, I think, on one of the threads, he had the VFL. It might have been George on the adder in his report. He had the VFL level of awareness at times, but a tick from me.
Yeah, look, he'll get another game.
Yeah,
and I think Dazzle Davey might have made the point in one of the threads about him that he looks like one of those players who's going to be better at AFL level than he got to show at VFL level, where it's congested and, the grounds aren't good, so it can get really muddy in the winter.
Yeah.
He looked like he enjoyed being on a nice, clean surface where he could run and carry a bit. So, one to watch.
I haven't been checking out the chat room. If you are listening to this live, get in the chat room, demonland.com/podcast. We do try to read it when we're not distracted. But Binman has mentioned that I'm assuming this is about Oliver, that he is unconsciously releasing it too quickly to avoid contact that might hurt his shoulders.
And that's David King's theory, not Binman's theory.
Sorry, yes.
But that's interesting. But it could be the case.
And then George has talked about the mid-season draft, and look, I don't know. He's saying, do we need another forward to cover our failings and needs this year, or do we look to 2020 and beyond, or both? I don't know what's out there, or how good they are.
Well, no, look, I think, there's a question mark over Wiedemann and his fitness at the moment and exactly when he's going to be coming back and just how injured he is. But, look, I don't mind Tim Smith as a backup. And and I know we discussed this a little bit earlier, but I think Tim Smith is not a bad option. He usually provides a good lead. He provides a good contest.
He's a good mark.
He's got a decent set of dukes. So, I'm sort of happy with the forward arrangement at the moment, although obviously they need to work on.
We've got to kick goals. That's the thing. Taking marks and up the ground or whatever. We've got to start putting goals on the scoreboard, because if we're not kicking goals, we're not going to win games. I like Tim Smith. My worry with him, he goes in very hard, and he always seems to get those contact injuries, whether it's the broken ribs, shoulders, the concussions. He just seems like one of those players that's always going to be carrying one of those type of injuries.
It seems like him and Joel Smith, whenever they come in, they go off injured at some point in the game.
That's right, and we can't afford that. I like him as a player. That's just my worry, because if he's not there, he's not there. But I'm happy if he's fit to play him, because he can take a mark and he can kick a goal if he's taking them in close. We'll tick to Oscar Baker. The other guy, Petty, played his second game. I was impressed. Have a look at his stats. I'm not sure he got a lot of it, but he didn't do anything bad. I'm happy to keep it. I think he had 10 possessions, took 4 marks.
Yep.
It's
in the right spot a couple of times.
Yep.
And good on him. Didn't have a great debut, but
no.
Definitely a much better outing second time round. So, yep.
But I think when we talked about that debut, I think they probably shouldn't have played him then. I can't remember who it was at the time that we thought they should have played instead, but it seems like it was not the right game to play.
It was probably Frost, I think.
Yes, might have been.
People were calling for Frost to be recalled at that stage, I think. Yeah.
Anyway, let's hope he gets a good crack at it in the coming weeks. Anyone else? Brayshaw. What's with Brayshaw?
The continuing mystery of Angus Brayshaw.
There's the conspiracy theory at Demonland that maybe he's carrying some type of injury. We know in the pre-season he spent a bit of time in the rehab group. I'm wondering if they're managing him through something, because they're not playing him so much in the middle. Playing him up
hardly
on the
at all
wing.
in the middle. Yeah.
So I don't understand. He was front and centre in the middle.
He just
playing
doesn't
his best
look
footy.
himself at the moment. Even the expression on his face, and I know it sounds ridiculous to try and be judging something off the telly like that, but he just looks disengaged from it all.
I don't know what that is. He's 19 possessions, and if we didn't have that helmet on, you might not have noticed him.
Yeah. I mean, my theory last week was that he's disgruntled at being pushed out to a wing to accommodate Jones in the middle. But
surely professional footballers not going to do that. I think we mentioned that last week. I don't know. I don't know what the situation there is.
I don't know, whether he's just in a bit of a bad patch of form, or he could well be carrying something.
It could just be form. As I said, that theory is not mine in terms of carrying some injury, but I have read that. If anyone's got any insight into that, let us know.
John Demonic. John Demonic is not a great fan. It says if he's not in the middle, then he's trade bait. Not good, not suitable for wing, half back or half forward. Sorry to say. So. And George on the outer has just said when he saw Brayshaw in Queensland, he looked very injured to me. So, perhaps he is carrying something.
We noticed, we did mention it last week, there were a few, for Angus Brayshaw, there were a few half-assed sort of attempts to sort of tackle by just putting his arm out, and it wasn't the Angus Brayshaw of 2018, that's for sure. So, don't know. I'm not ready to trade bait him yet, but
no,
because I know what he can do.
Yeah, no, absolutely no way. Angus Brayshaw's best is very good football. And it's the same, I think there was someone started a thread about Jack Viney.
Yep, I was going to bring him up next.
Yeah, and his limitations, and I don't buy into that either. I remember the Jack Viney that played against Hawthorn in last year's semi-final,
Yeah.
and he was outstanding. And he might not be, in the elite bracket of, top few midfielders in the league, but when he's got a clear run at it and playing his best footy, he's an extremely good player. So, yeah, he's another one who's, over 2 years now has been hampered by injury and just hasn't been able to get a proper crack at it.
Wells 11, the poster who started that thread on Demonland, he says he's a heart and soul player, clearly playing injured. Whether those injuries are long term, perhaps career long, he doesn't know. But whatever the cause, his kicking has become a real liability. He gets neither penetration nor accuracy on his left anymore. And then he says, let's face it, he never had really good on his right. Someone also mentioned he's getting very limited game time at the moment. I think 69% or something.
Yeah, I just find he's not getting a lot of the footy. You just don't see him as much as you do when he's really playing well. You sort of still see him getting in and burrowing in.
Well, he does that, but he's getting caught a lot.
Tackled and.
It was good in that Hawthorn game in the final when he's bullocking through and getting through and kicking it to Jonesy or whoever to get a goal. But he's not back to that best performance, and that could be because of injury. And they're managing him through it. But it seems we're doing that for a few players if the Brayshaw thing is right. Anyway. B-Man in the chat room says Jeffy worries me, and he's taking half steps and not committing to the ball. See, the Jeffy one's a funny one because he kicked 3 goals. A lot of them were those over-the-top ones, so it's one of those things.
They almost don't count.
But they do in the end. If he's kicking goals, he's kicking goals. I
mean, anyone else playing that role would be in the same position, and sometimes they're raffling it between 5 of them in the square.
Yeah.
But look, he dodged the contest in the final quarter there at the end, and you've dodged a contest when Bruce McAvaney, of all people, calls you out on it, which they pointed out on one of the footy shows last night is an extremely unusual thing for Bruce to do it. So I just can't understand it with Jeffy. He's like a lot of his teammates, lacks composure at the most important time and rushes kicks when he's got almost all the time in the world to either run in or sort of steady himself. So, yeah, some of the misses are inexcusable, really.
There were a few times I noticed he rather than go for the contest, he just sat back and watched a West Coast player go up and take an uncontested mark. So that's not good enough.
John Demonic says he runs to the right spots, but there's no point in getting the ball and running to the right spots if you're not going to capitalise on it, and he's not doing that properly at the moment.
Yeah.
DZF has asked for our thoughts on Stretch, and my judgment is in on Stretch. I think he's done. I don't think he's up to AFL standard, and opinion is divided on Demonland because I noticed either in the game day thread or perhaps in the post match thread that some said he's played a solid sort of patch of games over the past few weeks, but I thought his disposal was terrible the other night. He was guilty as much as anyone else of poor delivery into the forward line.
He had one nice
kick.
He did
lay a really good tackle.
And had one nice kick. I think it was to Viney. But I think that's about it. I think if we had a full complement of players to choose from...
he wouldn't be in the team.
He wouldn't be in the team. And that's what it comes down to in the end. And I think if we had a full complement and Jeffy might not be in the team either.
Yeah. Would Bailey Fritsch be still getting a run
Well,
at the moment?
people are not happy with Frida. He was sort of a cult.
Also not happy.
He was a cult hero last year, and as Big Man points out in the chat room, Big Man says, and Frida is really suffering from second-year blues. So many missed targets and defensive lapses. I think he cost us late in the game. I think maybe once or twice. B-Man says the mark on Maxi was down to him.
Well, he was chasing Ryan and really didn't go the distance with him, and then there was the handball that got intercepted. But I don't know why, maybe we'll see a change now with Lever on his way back. But Bailey certainly hasn't had a good year, and I was surprised that Goodwin's persisted with him down back. He showed so much promise early on up forward, and we're struggling up forward. So
he played.
Just seems logical to, if they're not going to drop him, and we probably can't afford to drop him given injuries and the like. Then shift him around.
Yeah, let's make a move. The defence this year isn't working. I thought he was good last year in defence, but he played all his time at Casey as a forward, like a leading forward, a marking forward. Let's throw him down there as maybe a leading forward.
Yeah,
he can mark. We know he can mark. He's a skinny guy, but he can take a mark. So let's.
Yeah, and I actually agree with John Demonic in the chat room saying that Fritsch is finessing it too much and not kicking through, and that might be right. He's just trying to make it too beautiful rather than going with his normal natural technique, which is excellent, as we know.
Well, I don't think he's going to get dropped, because if you have a look at how many players we had playing for Casey, I don't think...
It's only the kids.
Until we get that chunk of players back, which if all going well, perhaps after the bye we do get quite a few players back, I don't think we can afford to drop him, and I would consider moving him to the forward line, as mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Geez, 17% disposal efficiency in the first half.
That's pretty bad.
And it wouldn't have cleaned up too much after half time, I wouldn't have thought. He had a poor night, poor old Bailey.
Yep, he did. Anyone else we've missed out on speaking about? I thought Jonesy second half wasn't great.
Some of those funny, dinky little kicks that were just nightmares, really. When you got the ball and you're running at the top of centre half forward, and I don't know, happened a few times, but not the Lone Ranger.
No, definitely not. If you do want to join us, 0390163666, 0390163666, or Skype us, Demonland31. Got a couple people in the chat room if you do want to chat, to vent, and let us know what you think about the game or any of the players. Please do so. Well, that injury list is certainly mounting. We had 3 players go down with concussion. I haven't heard anything since. I don't know how serious any of those concussions were. We do have the 9-day break from the Friday game. Have you heard anything? Are any of those guys likely not to play?
No, I don't think there's been an update from Misso yet, so...
A lot of people not happy with Misso.
No.
He's usually there's a player or two that has is the poster boy. The one to bash, and Misso's certainly copping it this year. And I don't know. Do you when you look? I saw someone said somewhere that both Dean Kent and Jesse Hogan have played every game this year, or have played 8 or 9 games this year. There's only been 9 games, so I guess that's every game. Neither of those players probably had that strike rate when they were playing with us. Maybe Jesse, but certainly not Dean Kent.
Jesse was mostly on the field.
Yeah.
There's a theory on Demonland that because Misso's going at the end of the year,
He's checked out.
he's just sabotaging everyone
I
and
doubt that's the
purposely
case.
trying to injure players. I think Olesic even thinks that that the more injuries there are, the more money he gets or something. It's part of his KPIs. That the bigger, it must be that the bigger the rehab group is, the more money he gets. So
I would have thought it's the opposite. It should be the less players you have in that, you get pay more. I don't think that...
Olesic has a way of turning these things on their head. But yes, so...
Well, the injury list has been updated earlier today when I linked to it in our show notes. It hadn't been updated. Today's the 21st yet, but was on the 14th. So this is current. Mitch Hannon knee test. So I'm not sure whether he's going to play in the Rezzies this week or whether he still has another week to go. Hibbard, they're saying with the collarbone only 1 week away. Let's hope that's the case. Jeddah has gone down to 7 to 9 weeks, so he's still far away, almost in time for finals.
He'll only be back for the final few games of the year.
Finals or final few games?
Final few games, not final few finals. DZF has just mentioned in the chat room that the 3 concussed players didn't participate in main training today, but did run laps apparently. So
well, that might be just.
Is that a good sign?
That might just be standard procedure after a concussion that they must get a certain amount of time off from playing.
I suppose if things were really serious, they wouldn't be running at all. So movement must be good.
Kennedy Harris is listed as a test. Well, obviously
it's been a reasonably quick recovery for a very nasty injury.
Yeah, I think it was 12 weeks at the beginning. We're 10 weeks into the season. He did it in the Brisbane game, which was the second game. So it's about the 12 weeks.
About time. Yep.
Yeah. So look, he's certainly got to come through the twos. But I imagine if he plays all right, he'd be in line to get a game, depending on what happens with Garlett in the next few weeks. So keep your eye on that one. Another player that will probably be playing for his career once he gets back. KK still listed as to be confirmed. Now that's got to be
that's the worry.
It's a worry. He was the steak knives in that deal.
The thing is, he actually was more than steak knives, wasn't he?
Well, we were hoping that he would be more than the steak knives.
No, I mean I know he's been referred to that way, but he is a good player in his own right. A very high draft pick in his year.
Yep.
So not good news at the moment.
I don't know whether he's training at all. I don't know. He's probably running.
I don't think so.
Anyway, what can we do? Lewis still a test. May 1 to 2 weeks. Now I thought I think at the Hawthorn game they said 3 weeks. What's that? We played 2 since then. You would think then the next week, but he's still 1 to 2 weeks away. So we'll see what's happening there. Melksham's still 3 to 4 weeks away. So we've got the concussion boys all listed as TBC. So we'll see what happens there. Joel Smith come down to 3 to 5 weeks. Good to see. Vanderberg with that ankle still TBC, and Sam Wiedemann's the interesting one. Now this is where it'll be interesting. Depends what do you think he'll play if he plays this week? If Wiedemann doesn't play this week, it's got to be a bit of a question mark on what's going on with his hip. Now there was that concern that there was perhaps surgery needed to be involved. Obviously, haven't gone down that route yet. But if he doesn't play this week in the twos, something's going on there that we're not being told about.
Yeah. Look, we'll know soon enough, won't we?
Yeah, we'll know. If he plays this week, great. That's great, and let's hope he can get some form and get back into the ones. But if not, worry. Binman says that the website says that Hannon will play VFL this week, so that's fantastic news.
Gee, we could do with Mitch Hannon back in the forward line, couldn't we?
He's exactly what we need at the moment, and I'll be looking forward to him coming back.
And I like the idea of a Hannon and Hunt forward line.
Yep, I do too.
Two buzzy players.
We have a new person reporting on Melbourne D's training. The injury list has been compiled by Sarah Black. I don't know if you know Ben Guthrie, who used to go down to all the Demons and the Collingwood training sessions. Is no longer working at afl.com.au.
There's been a number of changes at afl.com.au recently, including some very senior people. Very senior and experienced and talented people.
Have you got a conspiracy theory bubbling there?
No.
Because that sounds like one. So Sarah Black has said there was mixed news on the injury front as Jake Lever made his long-awaited return through the VFL last week, as did Corey Maynard. However, three players, Neil Bullen, Tim Smith and Christian Salem, suffered concussions in the lost West Coast. Lewis will once again be a test after failing to get up last week, and Melbourne will confirm its full injury list on Wednesday. So, okay, we'll know more. I think she's just compiled, possibly by looking on Demonland. I don't know. Yep, interesting. Casey, did you? I didn't see. Were we on TV?
I only followed it to the extent that of knowing that the most important thing going into the game happened, and that is that Jake Lever played and got through unscathed.
It's exciting. I mean, how long does he play? He was on restricted time, I believe. I don't have statistics on how long he was on, but I just read somewhere that he was on restricted time on the ground, but I don't know how much. Jake Lever got through his first game after an ACL and showed patches of his defensive brilliance in limited time on the ground. Yes, that was from Casey's report.
Yep.
They got thumped, 43 points. All I'm seeing, Bedford and Bruce kicked 2. Kilty kicked 1.
I got a feeling they were in the contest. I think it might have mirrored a little bit like what happened on Friday night.
Well, 3 goals down at three-quarter time, up by a point at half-time.
Yep.
And then
to lose by 7 goals in the end.
Yeah, 5 goals to 1 in the last quarter. So yeah, pretty similar. I'm just counting how many listed players we had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nine listed players, and 4 of them are first year
juniors,
first year players who wouldn't have got a game anyway. So really, of that there, Wagner, Bruce, and Lever are the only ones at the moment that are probably likely to get a game. So, I mean, hopefully after the bye we get a number of these injured players back and. Look, we can't we can't talk. Well, I guess now do we? Is the season over? Is it?
In terms of making finals?
Yeah, not mathematically.
No,
realistically,
I don't think it is. As I say, there was a bit of promise the other night, and a bit, a glimpse of the Demons of last year. So, if that continues in the next couple of weeks, then I think we could have a promising finish to the year. And whether we make finals and even go deep in finals, or even if we don't, I think if we can finish the year strongly and get back to the type of form that we were playing at the end of last year, then we'd go into next year with a lot of confidence, even if this year does end up being a write-off. So, not all is lost as far as I can see.
If we did make the finals, and for me it's still a massive if, it would be shades of 1987. Where did we win the last 8 or 9 out of our last 10 games for the season? Scraped into the final 5 based on other results.
We won the last 6 in a row. We were 6-10 at round 16 and won the last 6. But look, we scraped into the finals plenty of years. We had to scrape in the year after, even though we made the granny. We had to beat Carlton in the last round, if I remember correctly, in '88 to get to qualify. So, I don't see the comparisons necessarily with '87, but finals is not out of the question. And as we saw last year, you only need to be playing your best footy at the right time of the year to make a serious impact. So anything's possible, but even if we were to miss, I'm still feeling pretty confident about the overall picture.
It's hard to talk changes for next week, particularly when we don't know the status of the guys who have concussions. I don't think we have any other injuries from the game, so I don't think anyone else will come out injured. But, and as I said, I think we've only got 3 guys in the twos and that are ready to come in.
Sorry, who are they again? Maynard.
We got not even Maynard. No. I'm not even including Maynard because he's just come back.
Wagner,
Wagner. Possibly those 2, and said it before, but well, I don't know. I don't think we've got anyone to come back.
Will Bruce come in, given that he played pretty well?
Look, we're up against Mumford, who will be rough with Max, but I think Max can handle him in terms of hit-outs, but does Max need a hand there? I guess that's the only question. Lever was the other one, but I doubt he won't play this week. He's not going to play.
Look, certainly if Tim Smith doesn't get up, then Bruce will almost certainly come in. You would have thought.
Oh yeah. It's gonna come down to that. So other than that, I can't see too many wholesale changes.
No,
I'm not sure how the younger guys have been going. Sparrow got a few games early, so I'm not sure how he's been going. But I'm happy to give those guys more time in the twos.
Yeah, and look, I think Goodwin will want to reward the positives that he saw the other night. We're limited in what we can do anyway, so he'd stick with the same combination as much as he can.
Big man in the chat room, I'm just reading something you wrote a little while ago. Remarkable number of Demonland posters with sports science degrees, and yeah, there are. Everyone's an expert.
Yep.
Well, look, I talked about whether we can make finals. Look, it's not ready. I mean, there's that thread on Demonland about looking towards 2020 and beyond, but let's not go there yet until the season is well and truly done and dusted.
No, and I heard them talking on Footy Classified last night. Craig Hutchison asked the question of whether Melbourne should write off this year and use it as, I mean, he didn't say, it ended up being talked about as tanking, but, to get whoever needs to go off for surgery, although surely most of them have had their surgeries by now.
Didn't we just do that?
But that Goodwin can spend this year working on the game plan and sharpening things and fine-tuning and refining and really have a crack at it next year. So Yeah, there's still a lot to be gained from this year, and we do need to refine our game plan, and we do need to perhaps completely overhaul the way we move the ball into the forward 50. So there's lots to be gained from the remaining time, even if we don't make the finals.
Well, let's hope there's no blind Freddies watching us if we're going to start going down the T word, which I don't think we do. Did you have a look at the Indigenous Guernsey for this year, particularly the story attached to it?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love both the story and the initiative by the club to do what they've done.
Yeah, they had
I like the design of the Guernsey too. So
they had a competition. For it, which I thought was a good idea. I think it's simplistic in the design. There's not a lot happening, so it's not too busy. I think it's really good. Looks like a Melbourne jumper. There's no mistaking, obviously, the colours, but the boomerang for the V. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's one of the. I actually like most of the Indigenous Guernseys that we've come up with, but I think this is a real winner, and I really like what the club's doing in the NT and around Alice. And some of the homelands and outstations there.
I think I saw the video that the club put up with the lady who designed it, and I really liked how she said she sort of looked at the other Indigenous Guernseys we had worn over the last few years and sort of incorporated sort of some of the design aspects. So.
Yep.
It's really nice, being a bit of a flow on from year to year.
Yeah,
so,
there's a bit of consistency to it, and really good.
Really like it. When are we wearing that? When is that for our NT game?
Yes.
Yep.
So that's in 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, we're playing Adelaide. I think we're Darwin first up.
First, yep.
Yeah, and that we were Alice last year. So. Hopefully we can repeat the drubbing we gave Adelaide, but that's still another week away.
Although that drubbing was in Alice.
That was in Alice, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What's the weather this time of year there? And were we playing that at night? A night game?
I think it is.
Got my fixture right here. That is 7:40. Yep, at night. So.
Yeah. Look, the conditions in Darwin are never great.
Yeah, a bit wet. That was the Freo game last year, wasn't it? That was a slippery game. We kicked a lot of points.
Here's a question for you. Why are our players slipping over so much?
I think I said it early on in the thread. I think we're not wearing the right boots, but what do I know? I don't know what... surely they're not. Surely that's not the case.
Does it not seem to be happening all the time?
Yeah, it happened.
Not happening all the time.
That is.
It's happening too often.
It happened last week against Gold Coast, and I thought maybe it was because of the conditions.
It happened in West Coast
and
too.
It happened in West Coast.
Fell over a few times.
We did it. I think Jones did it a couple of times in the. I don't know.
And Viney, I think, as well.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm loath to say that it's the studs because you'd think that they know what they're doing. But maybe they don't. I don't know. Anyone else got a theory there? I don't know. Big Man says that Indigenous Guernsey, we're wearing it for both NT games, and I think that's a good idea too. Not sure if we did that last year. That's a good thing. All right. So, anything else, Mr. Grapeviney? Playing a Sunday game. Playing a Sunday game. Back to Sunday. It's been a while. D Zephyr says that the website states we'll be wearing the Indigenous jumper this week against the Giants.
All right. As well as the NT games. So 3 times. They're wearing it almost more than our home Guernsey, the regular.
I think I read somewhere there was an Essendon supporter who wasn't happy that and this was a few weeks ago, that of the 6 or 7 games they had played, they'd had 5 different jumpers.
So it's
a
definitely too much now.
Yeah, there's a lot of different.
Although
Guernseys.
This is definitely one I'd like to see retained if they are going to get rid of some of the theme jumpers. I like this one.
Well, what do we have? We've got our away, the light blue away Guernsey. We've got the red back. Did we need to wear the red back this week? We played West Coast, which has a blue jumper, but it's a light blue. Did. No, we did wear the red back. I can see now. I'm watching the footage. So we definitely did have the red back on, which I don't mind actually, but obviously prefer.
So we've got red back, we've got disco,
normal jumper.
We've got Indigenous, we've got the Anzac Guernsey.
Yep. We didn't do the pink jumper this year. They had pink socks. Pink.
There isn't a jumper for multicultural round, thankfully. I don't know how we'd do that.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, and we've said it earlier in the year. I love that training jumper. They've gone back to that design, that MFC design, which I really like.
Yep.
All right. We might wrap things up there. So enjoy the footy. Do you think we can beat GWS? I'm a bit worried the thrashing they gave Carlton. I don't think we can compare us to Carlton.
Carlton were witches' hats. Look, we did a really good job the other night of stopping West Coast's game. We were set up, and for the most part, we did the hard work that was necessary to really close them down. And I think we can do that to any or most sides. Look, GWS are better than West Coast at the moment. West Coast were off the boil the other night, and they were ripe for the taking.
And they've been off.
So easy.
West Coast have been off the boil of late as well, so they had some form going in. GWS are
a much tougher proposition.
Yeah, but there's a question mark about them at the MCG. They proved that against Hawthorn a couple of weeks ago, so let's hope we can.
But you know that I think they've only won twice at the MCG. You realise
both against us.
Well, no, one was against us, but and that was a large one too. I think that was it's close to a 10-goal thrashing. I think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll be it. Thank you, Grapeviney. Thank you for listening. Thank you to the guys in the chat room with your comments and contributing to the podcast. We'll be back next week, and hopefully we can celebrate a win and not have a wake for our season. See you next week. Go Demons.